For the Rebel.media, I'm Ezra Levant. I am in a car driving from Her Majesty's Prison Belmarsh to Paddington train station, where I'll then get on the train to Heathrow Airport to go home to Canada. So I am in a rush, which is why I'm filming this in a car. But I would like to take this car ride to tell you about my prison visit with Tommy Robinson. He, as you know, was sentenced for contempt of court to a 9-month prison term, and this is on top of the time he's already served. Now, some of that time served will be deducted from this sentence, so he'll wind up being freed from prison in mid-September, but he has been put in the harshest, most maximum security in London for a non-criminal offense of contempt of court. By the way, no British journalist has been imprisoned for contempt of court in nearly a century. So the reason I came to visit Tommy is not just because it's a good thing to do to visit someone in prison, but because I was deeply concerned that the prison authorities would abuse Tommy in the same manner that they had abused him at the prison he was in last year, HMP Onley. Elements of that abuse include putting him in a small box, solitary confinement, with no human contact for 23 and a half hours a day, no television, and then the half hour a day he was let out, he was screamed at by some of the Muslim prison gangs that were wishing him death. He actually had death threats hand-delivered to his cell door, very specific death threats. It was not just physical abuse, but the psychological abuse of 10 weeks in solitary confinement, which is illegal, by the way. And finally, there was the starvation element, because Tommy's food was marked Stephen Yaxley Lennon and hand-delivered to his cell. The Muslim prison gangs that prepared it could tamper with his food in a way they couldn't tamper with food in the cafeteria-style lines. So there were various elements of his torture last time, and I use that word on purpose because it is psychological and physical torture. As evidence of that, I point out that he lost 40 pounds in 10 weeks. So that's why I visited Belmarsh today. And my immediate questions were, has he been mistreated by either prisoners or staff? Has he been starved? Has he had any threats? Has he been subjected to physical or mental duress of any sort? And let me give you the answers to those questions and other answers that I heard in my approximately 1-hour meeting with Tommy today. First of all, Tommy is in a complete isolation unit. It's a form of solitary confinement in that he literally has not seen a single other prisoner in his time at Belmarsh. He just hasn't seen any. And we were led into a distinct part of the prison where there simply was no one else. There were so many prison staff who were working on Tommy's file. Tommy tells me that even to unlock his door, to take him from his cell to the exercise bike, from the exercise bike to the weight room, from the weight room to the shower room, 2 guards are assigned to every one of those steps. It's a bizarre handling unit. I don't know how many prison staff are focused on Tommy, but it's enormous. It's not like HMP Onley where they just threw him in a hole and said, haha, see you in 10 weeks. It's sort of the opposite. I mean, he is in solitary in that he has no other contact with prisoners, but he does have contact with prison staff. And he tells me that the governor of the prison, the warden as we call it in North America, actually visits him every day, even just for a moment, just to say, how's it going? I thought that was very interesting. Not only is the warden making himself available to Tommy, but he's inspecting to make sure things are well done. I found that very interesting and relieving. Tommy says he's not worried about his food. He says it's prepared in the hospital unit or the hospital wing he's in, and that it's not run by prison gangs. Remember, this is basically a prison within a prison. I mentioned that Tommy is isolated, has no other contact with prisoners whatsoever. In particular response to a front page story in the Daily Star that was picked up by dozens of other mainstream media outlets in the United Kingdom that claimed that Tommy was in the prison showers with other prisoners, and he was assaulted by a 70-year-old pensioner who dropped Tommy with one punch. Now, if you've ever seen Tommy, you know that it's unlikely that someone would jump him in prison if it was just one guy and 70 years old and knock him down with one punch. But who knows? It's possible. But of course, that was a lie. Tommy has not been in communal showers. He has not even seen any other prisoner. Other details in that story were laughably false, that Tommy came in strutting and was mocked by prisoners of every race. I say again, no other prisoners in Belmarsh have seen Tommy, and Tommy has seen no other prisoners. For the Daily Star to run that story on the front page, a complete fabrication, proves the essential point that Tommy and others have made, which is you just can't trust a word the mainstream media says. Now, one rumor that I heard that Tommy confirmed was true is that one of the 3 prisoners in this special handling unit is Julian Assange of WikiLeaks. And although Tommy has not physically seen him, Tommy can call up to him and Assange can call down. And they've had conversations that way. And Tommy says that Julian Assange is a good bloke who's supportive. And I didn't get too much into the detail of their conversations, but I found it very interesting. Again, Tommy has not physically seen him, but they've had this conversation. Assange is in the hospital, really, in this isolation unit, and Tommy is in what they laughably call a suite. I mean, it's still a cell, and he's in there by himself, but unlike HMP Only, it has a TV. Now, that might sound frivolous or trivial, but when you have no human contact, having a TV just for the sound of a human voice, just for some distraction, is essential to psychological well-being. On the subject of prison visits, Tommy is only allowed 3 visits a week. Now, it should be more. The prison, in fact, Tommy does have a legal right to a daily visit, but through general incompetence and mismanagement, the prison says they're short-staffed on several of the days a week. So he really only has 3 visits a week, and he's in fact only been visited once by his family. And I find that unacceptable, given that he is a civilian prisoner, a civil prisoner who's committed no crime. As to his food, I already mentioned that he does not believe that it's being tampered with, and he does have the ability to buy some food from the canteen. It's not a question of Tommy being short of funds. It's that there's a maximum amount that prisoners may spend. That also addresses the telephone issue. Tommy is only allowed a certain maximum number of minutes in the phone call, and obviously they're all listened to and screened. So he has to be very judicious with the amount of minutes he spends, because obviously he wants to talk to his family. Let's see, it was a 1-hour conversation, and I just observed that he seemed to be in proper health. He was wearing comfortable clothes of his own. He wasn't wearing prison stripes or an orange jumpsuit or whatever. He was wearing his own clothing from home. He had grown a bit of a beard in the 12 days he's been in prison, but his eyes are not sunken. He does not look emaciated. In fact, he says that he's getting fit. He rides a stationary bike for an hour in the morning, and he said that given the isolation nature, he had access to the gym the other day, and the entire gym was to himself. He said it was quite odd. I asked him how the staff were, and he told me quite bluntly that the staff were very good to him, and I found that a relief. I want to tell you one little wrinkle. When I arrived at the prison early, I mean, I was told to arrive 45 minutes early to check in, and I arrived even earlier than that, and I was being very compliant with all the rules because obviously I'd come a very long distance. And we were waiting in a common visitors holding area with other prisoners who were going to see the general population. And one of the prison guards surprised us by saying, "Surprise, you will not be in the same room as Tommy. You will be separated by a glass wall, and you can speak to each other by telephone through the glass wall." And I said, hang on. That is not right. That is not right. What is going on here? This is a change. Why is this happening? This is unacceptable. Why are you limiting his human interaction? Why can't I even shake the guy's hand? By the way, we're not allowed to take anything in. I had to take my watch off. I had to take my jacket off. I had to take my belt off. I had to empty everything, not even a scrap of paper. I wanted to bring in a piece of paper. I could bring nothing in, no cell phone, nothing at all. They searched us in a variety of ways for drugs, weapons, phones, everything. It was extremely high security. And at the last minute, this guard says, "Surprise, there will be a barrier between you and you have to speak to each other by phone." Now, I'm certain they listened to every word we said. There was literally a camera in the room anyways. I assumed they were recording us, the audio of our conversations. But when I heard that they were pulling that trick, I was a mix of terror and rage. Terror in that I thought how capricious the prison system, and remember, this is the same prison system that moved him from HMP Hull, a safe prison, to HMP Only, a deadly prison. And I thought, here comes that capricious whim, and we don't even know he's making the decisions. I just about lost it. I said to this guard, who was just a workaday guard, I mean, she wasn't a boss, she wasn't the warden. I said, if that is the case, if you are starting to have whimsical and capricious treatment of the prisoner, and when he's got, and I was there with two of Tommy's friends who we sort of jammed in the same time slot. I said, if you are doing this to him, I swear to God, I will tell the world every indignity and every restriction you put. I was so upset. Even though it was just a regular security guard, I let her know that the prison that any mistreatment of Tommy, even a small thing, would be globally known within an hour of my release, my leaving the visit. She went and spoke to her superiors and came back and said, oh, no, I was wrong. You'll be able to meet him after all. Now, I don't know if she was really wrong or if they blinked on that, but that's what I'm talking about when I'm doing these prison reports. In general, Tommy seems to be in good health. He said, by the way, he gets a daily medical exam. He says he gets, poked and prodded and blood tests and every day. I should tell you that in his 10 weeks in HMP Only, he had no health exam whatsoever. He also had a psychologist or a psychiatrist talk to him. So he is getting full physical and mental health. It really is a special handling unit. I mean, really, there's only 3 prisoners in his little series of suites. One's Julian Assange, one's him, and one's a murderer of some sort. So he went from being literally thrown in a hole in Onley to being measured and observed and poked and prodded continuously. Now, I suppose this is the better of the two. The fact that he's in this maximum security prison, in this holding cell designed for extreme prisoners, is a joke if it weren't so outrageous. I mean, Tommy is not in jail for a crime. It was a civil offense of contempt of court. But I have to say that my fears were somewhat allayed. He's 12 days into his sentence. He has not been starved. He has not been poisoned. He has not been threatened. He's not been abused. He has not received access to his lawfully entitled prison visits, and that's a concern. The fact that that guard tried or said we were going to be behind a pane of glass told me that there's still a whimsical approach. She may have just been mistaken. I'll grant that that's a possibility. But given Tommy's treatment in the prison system before, I'm extremely skeptical. I spoke with Tommy at some more length, and I left after about an hour because, as you can see, I'm in the car. I got to rush to Paddington Station and get straight to the airport. I got to get on that plane. But I told him that I would continue to visit, and he was glad that I would. And, of course, we had talked about this before his sentence, because it's important that he stay in proper care. Because you'll recall his last sentence, everything was fine at HMP Hull until the day it wasn't. And without warning or explanation or appeal, he was simply switched prisons. So I intend to return to visit Tommy several times. I don't know if it's weekly or every 2 weeks, I don't know, to ensure that things do not change, because in the prison authority, decisions are made that are not transparent, that are difficult, if not impossible, to appeal. And frankly, given his isolation, we don't even know about it. What we do get from the mainstream media instead is purely fabricated lies, like the story of him being assaulted in the shower. What a lie the Daily Star told. So that's my slightly more extended version. I'm going to, like I said, I couldn't take notes in there. I was not allowed a pen or paper or a phone to write things down. It was a 1-hour conversation. It was a very dense conversation. There was a lot to go over. He was saying that he had not yet received many of the messages and packages meant for him, and that counterterrorism was going through them all and going through them very slowly. I mean, he's been in prison for 12 days and he's only got 1 day's worth of emails. He did not receive the emails I had sent him. That was of concern to me. So they are infringing upon his legal rights. They're not gross infringements, but you've got to keep an eye on it. And given the sheer manpower attending to time, there must be 30 people working on. I mean, it's as if he's public enemy number one because he was live streaming some political commentary on Facebook. It really is a joke. The amount of manpower punishing a journalist that could be put on. There are literally ISIS terrorists in that prison right now, but Tommy's the one in the special handling unit. So as I return in my very long journey, I came all the way over this morning. I went straight to the prison, and we're going all the way home today. The whole round trip, I don't know, about 15 hours in the air, only about 6 or 7 hours on the ground. I am somewhat relieved, but I am still on alert because I see how quickly and capriciously Tommy's treatment can change. That is why I intend, with Tommy's approval, to return to prison several times before he is let out in 54 more days. If you agree that these visits are important, not only to talk to Tommy, but to let the prison governor know that someone is watching, to let the prison authority know that if they throw him in the hole, if they throw him in, if they take away what privileges he has, someone will know, and the world will know. If you believe that's important, please help me. I mean, it's an absurd thing to come all the way from Canada. It's absurd from a amount of time needed. It's absurd from the cost point of view. But if you think that this is the only way to ensure Tommy's safety, which I do, there's simply no one else I trust to ask the right questions, to look Tommy in the eye and see what the answers are. I just had to see for myself, and I can say he's okay for now. If you want me to come back and do more of these crazy 24-hour round trips, I'll do them. But I do need help to cover the cost of the flight and the train fare and the cab fare. Hopefully I'll be able to do it at less expense next time, but it still will be thousands of dollars all in. If you can help, please go to prisonreports.com, and I'll keep doing these prison reports, both in these long-form videos, in short-form tweets, and I'm going to keep an eye on this lad till he gets out. Thanks very much, and I'll probably have some more videos later on today and tomorrow, but for now I'm just on my way to the airport. Thanks. I'm on a whistle-stop trip, planes, trains, and automobiles from Canada to Belmarsh Prison in London and back in less than 24 hours. My purpose, to report on the treatment of Tommy Robinson in Belmarsh Prison. If you want to see all my reports on the subject and chip in to help this crazy flight journey I'm on, please go to prisonreports.com.